Oh, why not discuss it? So first off, I'm wearing a Rob Zombie shirt. So if anybody wonders, is he wearing Undertaker? No, I'm not wearing Undertaker. So I'm just gonna go through this, the Survivor Series, which was kind of a mixed bag for me. The dual branded Battle Royal. The Battle Royal. Here's the deal. So when you see these matches get thrown together and it's a big schmoz, it's so that everybody gets a share of the payday for the pay per view. So all these guys are in this match. That way they get a share of money for the pay per view. It's on the kickoff show, but there's still an amount of money they made that they wouldn't have made otherwise. And of course, it's won by The Miz because, sure. And it's the age old, oh, he's eliminated, but he's not really eliminated thing. It's just, yeah, I've never been a big fan of it. The only time I ever liked it was when Ric Flair did it, where he got thrown over the top and then he just sort of went, all right, I didn't actually hit the floor, but all right, I'll just wait out here then. I'll just let them all beat each other up. It was brilliant, and then it's just been done to death since then. So then we get into the main card. You get the men's Survivor Series match, which is Raw, AJ Styles, Keith Lee, Braun Strowman, Riddle, and Sheamus versus Kevin Owens, Jey Uso, King Corbin, Seth Rollins, and Otis. Rollins sacrifices himself, and the SmackDown side gets destroyed. All I know is that I left for a washroom break and came back, and I'm like, wait, Owens is gone? How is Owens gone? Why is Owens gone? Who decided that was a good idea? So, yeah, and then they just ran the whole thing out. So, Team Raw wins at 5-0, and I thought it was kind of anticlimactic, to be honest. Survivor Series matches when it's everybody on one side wins, to me it's kind of anticlimactic. I did like what they did with Jey after. Jey Uso is absolute fire right now. New Day versus Street Profits. Very good match. Very entertaining match. Street Profits win the match. Rightfully so. New Day putting them over makes a lot of sense. I'm honestly kind of surprised New Day have tag titles. But then you look at the tag team ranks and you go, oh, right, there aren't tag teams. So it makes sense that New Day has them because there aren't tag teams. I'm not sure why they have 2 tag team titles anymore. There aren't tag teams. But Street Profits are good. Bobby Lashley versus Sami Zayn, and of course Lashley won it. Kind of anticlimactic again. Sami Zayn, as many titles as they can put on him, he's never going to be a real threat. He's always going to be kind of weaselly, which is too bad because he's very good on the mic. He's a very intelligent guy. He seems to be a very nice guy as well. Just he's never going to be the guy. And I don't think that if he went to AEW at some point that would change. I think he's always going to be kind of middle of the card. Very good worker, though. Very, very, very good worker. All right, so we then move on to Asuka against Sasha Banks. Good match. I was kind of the roll-up finish. I was actually kind of hoping for a situation where Sasha makes her pass out, or Asuka makes Sasha pass out. I wanted to see where there's a winner. And I think this can be done, and I think this is something that WWE struggles with, where they want to make both wrestlers look strong, but they want to have a winner. And so I think that's why they go with the roll-up as often as they do. It's a running joke on What Culture Wrestling. I talk about it all the time, the surprise roll-up. They're like 92 on the year. And that's only counting since March. But I think you can have a clean finish without making somebody look weak, without it being a surprise, without it being a shock. Because the problem is, it's like, and Simon Miller said this, so full credit to him. Why as a wrestler would you not try to get surprise roll-ups constantly? Since that's how everybody's getting pinfalls, why not go to that? It's sort of like, okay, everybody should go for a guillotine choke because that always works. And it's just, so, again, I think that if you have finishers win matches, I think that's the reason they're called finishers. But they don't finish anybody. Some finishers don't even get a pin, like hardly ever. It's sad. It's to the point where I'm thinking about tracking it where every Raw and SmackDown, I'd have to watch every Raw and SmackDown, or at the very least, I could probably go through notes and count how many matches end with a clean finish, how many matches end with a disqualification, how many matches end with outside interference, how many matches end in a countout, and just go through and see what is the percentage of matches that WWE has that are actually clean finishes, and then I can compare that with AEW or with ROH or with Impact or across all 4 and see, so does WWE have a lot more screwy finishes, or do we just complain about it more? Because I legit don't have the information on that. The Women's Survivor Series match. Nia, Shayna, Lacey, Peyton, and Lana against Bayley, Natalya, Bianca, Liv, and Ruby. Now, off the start, I thought they got this right. And by off the start, I mean Peyton Royce pinning Bayley, which was fantastic. Peyton Royce could be one of the most over heels in the company. We know she can talk on a microphone and make people want her to stop talking. She's a good wrestler. She's very good looking as well, which is important for female wrestlers, right? Clearly more important than it is for the male wrestlers, but it's important. I'm not saying that not all of the men in WWE are necessarily beautiful humans, but you just look at the top guys in the men's side and the women's side, and right? But they blew it. So Peyton eliminates Asuka and then gets eliminated right away after that. And I was like, okay, so or she eliminated Bayley and then got eliminated right away after that. And I was like, okay, so that takes all that away. And then it turned into you're pinned, you're out, you're out, you're out. The smartest one of the bunch. My favorite moment in the entire match was where it looked like Shayna Baszler was down, but she choked her opponent out. She choked Ruby Riott out. And the funny thing is, Michael Cole was still selling this with the idea of, but she had her pinned. No, she didn't. Shayna's on her back, sure, but Shayna's choking her out. The referee comes over, she could just bring one arm up and keep choking her out. The point of that was the surprise choke out that she got there. So that was, I thought, the best moment in the entire match. And the more I see of Shayna Baszler, the more I like her. Which is funny because when she was in NXT, I was kind of like, oh, I want somebody to beat her so badly. But she's a very good, very smart wrestler. And I really think the reason she's been saddled with the tag belts and the reason that Vince has soured on her here and there, I think it comes down to a looks thing. And I don't have any reason other than that's my gut instinct. Is that with Vince being the guy who's in charge, he still believes that the women's wrestling, it's important they can wrestle, but if they're not really good looking women, then he doesn't, I don't think he feels like the crowd will engage as much, and I don't think he feels like they'll sell as much merch. So that's why we get Sasha Banks and Asuka, and you know, Bayley as well. Bayley's pretty, this kind of thing, right? So, and again, I know that's all subjective. I'm just saying from Vince's perspective, that may be part of what it is. And then, of course, the match ends stupidly. Bianca Belair and Nia Jax are counted out. And as soon as they put Lana on the steps, I went, oh, Lana's going to win. Oh, no, no. And so Lana spends 20 minutes standing there looking sad, putting on her pouty face. And then she's the only one that didn't get counted out or pinned, so she's the lone survivor. And then she celebrated like she won the World Series, which she shouldn't have. What should have happened is she should have come in the ring and just turned to Nia and gone, yeah, I might have got eliminated, but nope. Sorry, I guess I'm the lone survivor. Had some sort of maybe a celebration, but she played it up too much, and I thought Nia made no attempt to put her through the table, where she's put her through the table for a lot less than this. Because as soon as she was on the steps, I'm like, okay, so Lana's probably going to go through the table for that 10th time. All right. And it just, I understand that WWE is trying to get her over as a face, but if you want to get Lana over as a face, have her win matches. Have her beat Nia somehow. Have her come in the ring during that tag match and kick Nia in the head and end up leading to her being eliminated from the match. And then walk out. Walk out on her own team. And say, forget it. And the crowd would go nuts. And it's that, I mean, you can't do it all the time, but there's a reason that everybody cheered for Stone Cold, that we all loved Stone Cold. Because he would just say, screw you guys. And he didn't care. He didn't care if he won the match. He didn't care if he was in a team with somebody he didn't like. He didn't care. He was more than willing to take the loss if it meant he got to kick that guy in the head. Sure. Fine. And I don't think there's enough of that. And I think that's part of what gets Roman over now, even though he's a heel. If you had full crowds, he's getting a lot of cheers right now. Because the way they're playing Roman, that's the way fans, myself included, have wanted Roman to be played for years. Years now. Oh, really? CBS gave that match a B. They gave the women's 5-on-5 match a B? With that finish? Jax was held back by the referees and did not deliver the customary Samoan drop. She really wasn't, though. She was just kind of standing there. She wasn't fighting really hard to get up on... Like, Nia, if Nia really wanted to get in that ring, she would have gotten in that ring. Anyway. All right. And then you get to the main event, which of course was Roman Reigns against Drew McIntyre. This was one of the best matches I've probably ever seen. And it shows just how good Roman can be. When you have Roman stuck in the 5 moves of doom, which a lot of faces are in, and I know when you're the face of the company, and it goes back to Hulk Hogan days, where Hogan, you had the punch, you had the kick, you had the atomic drop, you had the leg drop, the body slam, and there wasn't a whole lot else you'd get. You were never going to get a superplex with Hogan. You weren't going to get a bunch of mat wrestling with Hogan. Hogan would come in, do his shtick for 5 minutes, win the match, and leave. And I think that's what they did with Cena at certain points, or they tried with Cena. Cena's a very good wrestler. And with Roman, I think it's the same thing. It's that idea of, we're going to make this guy a monster. We're going to have his move set very simple so that the fans will understand. And they do it with Brock too. And it drives me nuts, because I know Brock Lesnar is actually a really good wrestler. But when he comes into the ring, what does he do? Germans, and just flings guys around. Okay, overhead release, and it's just, it gets a bit tedious, especially when you know Brock can actually wrestle. Brock can be a very good wrestler, and it can be frustrating. So if they ever bring Brock back in to face Roman, which I think is eventually the plan once we get fans in attendance, Brock can be a face, and hopefully they give him a chance to actually wrestle, and instead of all the German. Because the 5 moves of doom thing will get tiresome. That match between Drew and Roman last night, absolutely fantastic. That was great. That was a great match. I did not like, the one part I did not like was that Jey Uso got involved, in that it was kind of a bit of a dirty finish. Now I know Drew just won the belt, and Roman's over as a monster heel, so you don't want to take the heat away from either. There are ways to do it that neither wrestler will lose heat. One of my favorite things in wrestling that I have not seen in 3 decades enough, and every now and then you would see it in the 80s, is what they call a superior victory, which is, you beat a guy up so much the referee goes, that's it, he's done. Even if the guy can get back up before the 10 count, even if he's still kind of fighting back. It's like boxing, right? Boxing, a referee can look a guy in the eyes and go, he's done. He's still standing here, but he's done. We're wiping this out before there's more damage done. I've always wanted to see more matches with superior finishes. If you had a match, let's say you had a match between Drew and Roman, and Roman's just beating the living hell out of him, and Drew just keeps getting up, but eventually his eyes are glassed over, and a referee's asking him questions. Where are you? Do you know where you are? Do you know? And Drew's not really answering, and the referee goes, that's it, he's had enough, and he calls for the bell. It absolutely works, and I think it would be great. Drew can then show up the next time on SmackDown and say, yeah, no, I didn't go down. And so he loses the match, but he doesn't lose any heat. He doesn't lose any of his rep. And then it makes Roman so much more of a monster. And I've always wanted them to have a wrestler who wins every match that way. He doesn't have a finisher. He doesn't have a submission hold. He just beats guys up until referees say, okay, that's enough. That's enough. That's it. And by superior decision, here's your winner. You could say by KO. You want to say it's a KO victory? Fine. By knockout, here's your winner. I really think that would be a good way to get a guy over. And it means... So here's another example, and I'll close off on this. Almost close off on it. So let's say you have... Jeff Hardy's a good example, right? You have Jeff Hardy go into a match against... Okay, we'll use Sheamus, because Sheamus and Hardy had this big feud. And you have Sheamus just beat the living hell out of Hardy 3 matches in a row. And Hardy ends up losing by superior victory each time. But he will not quit. So that 4th match, when he finally gets that victory, it feels huge. It feels like a big deal. And that's something that I think wrestling has missed out on. And I don't think it's just WWE. AEW has their struggles with this too. But if you had superior victories in wrestling again, I think that'd be great. I do. I think that would be awesome. I would love to see that. Where they just decided to end the match. Just that's it. And sometimes you'll see that, but it's for ridiculous reasons. And so I'm talking about, like, you legit believe, watching the match, that this wrestler cannot continue. He's still getting up. He's not being pinned for a 3 count, but you have to stop the match. He simply cannot physically be allowed to continue because he's jeopardizing his long-term health. Which brings me to The Undertaker. The Undertaker's exit last night was overly long. I get why. Don't at me about this. The Undertaker's exit was it was weird. So you have everybody's ring entrance. Everybody's ring entrance for JBL and Savio Vega and all this. And I'm like, okay, this is fun for those of us that have watched for decades. But kids watching this are going to be going, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? How long is this going to go on for? And who's that? Who's that? So they all get in the ring and they're all together. And then you go to whatever, and you come back into the ring, and there's Vince McMahon. Now, I've seen people say Vince McMahon sounded old, and he sounded like he was in poor health. Vince McMahon sounded very emotional. I will agree. He did sound kind of old. He's an old man. He's an old man. He was an old man 20 years ago. That's how it works. That's how the aging process works. We just don't see him on TV as much as we used to, and that's part of the reason why he's older. But I thought Vince McMahon's calling out the entrance for The Undertaker was great. And then they had that weird video game music, and then it was like 6 minutes of The Undertaker coming in, and all I could think of was Bobby Heenan and the gimmick battle royal back in WrestleMania 17. And when he was talking about the Iron Sheik coming to the ring, and he said by the time the Sheik gets to the ring, the match will be over. And it was so perfect. That was one of my favorite moments ever in watching wrestling. No announcer I thought was ever that good. Bobby Heenan was the greatest color guy ever, I thought, in wrestling. So I thought of that with Undertaker, because it took a long time for him to come out. And then I kind of sort of waited for something to happen. I thought maybe John Cena would come out and say, not yet. Not yet, big man. You haven't faced me yet. But that didn't happen. So I'm hoping this is it. One thing that wrestlers have a hard time doing is saying, I retire, and then sticking to it. We've already seen him leave his hat in the ring. We've already seen him do it. And then he came back and wrestled again after that. We've already seen this. So I believe him that he wants to be done this time. And then I watched him on the Stone Cold podcast there, and he's great. Mark Calloway, great guy, and I thought that was a really good interview. I watched the first half of it. By that time I was kind of wrestled out, but it was very entertaining, and again, because those Broken Skull sessions are on all the time, it'll be on again. I'll be able to catch other parts of it, because the other Undertaker one they had, it's on like every second day, because the ratings are very good for those. So and I always get a kick out of watching Stone Cold trying not to swear. I think it's because his natural habitat is just swearing constantly. So watching him try not to is always entertaining. But it was a good show. I thought Survivor Series was better than it had any business being. I thought this was the best Survivor Series I've seen in a very long time, which is to the credit of the workers. And I did think it was telling too that while Survivor Series was on, that former Zelina Vega, Thea Trinidad, as her real name, that she was on Twitch during Survivor Series. So, and I get why. And it's not to steal views from Survivor Series, because it just takes her mind off of what's going on. Because losing your employment within a couple weeks of what would have been one of your bigger paydays of the year, that has to be a real kick. A real kick in the nether regions. So, it's an interesting time in wrestling. And we'll see how long it is before fans are back in attendance, and how these storylines work. It was weird with Taker in the ring, and knowing that a lot of those chants were piped in. They sure sounded piped in. It was odd. And it had to be odd to The Undertaker, too, to be out there having this big moment with no fans in attendance. That had to be really bizarre. But anyways, let me know what you guys thought of Survivor Series in the comments section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.